conference churning, because it is all over the place. And much, much more of the HBCU athletic aesthetic. As we emerge our lecture with sports business practices in the competitive sports industry, the show seeks to provide innovative, progressive, informative dialogue about the week's HBCU sporting events in news such as HBCU churning, and perspective, as well as HBCU churning.
Absolutely.
We review the Southwestern Athletic Conference, better known as the SWAC, the Mid-Eastern Athletic Conference, better known as the MEAC of the NCAA Division II, Southern Intercollegiate Athletic Conference, SIAC, Central Intercollegiate Athletic Association, the CIAA of the NCAA Division II, Gulf Coast Athletic Conference, GCAC of the NAIA, and independent programs such as Tennessee State of the OVC, Hampton of the Big South, and who else knows right now, because HBCU churning is going on.
Yes, it is.
Langston of the Sooner Athletic Conference, as well as Texas College as an affiliate member, as well as Edward Waters as they transition from the NAIA NCAA Division II and memberships in the SIAC. And as I keep saying, HBCU conference churning. Guys, did I get my point across?
I think you got your point across.
Yeah, I think it's crystal clear.
Very much so.
Well, we're gonna jump over there to Charles Bishop and see if maybe he can give us some news of the day before we get into all this HBCU conference churning. We do have a great interview lined up that is going to talk about HBCU classics, that history, and what is taking place right now in the mix of COVID-19 pandemic. A little more serious note, and obviously as the world continues to hopefully move forward in terms of what a lot of people are talking about now, Black Lives Matter, certainly in the environment that's going on all around us. With that, Charles, you have some HBCU news of the day? Before I do that,
let's jump right into it. And this is breaking news as of 2 hours ago, and this comes to us from the Monroe News star Corey Diaz and Gramble's president. Bayou Classic to remain in the Superdome for now. So this is from President Rick Gallo from Gramble. He says the game is still scheduled, and we have not made any decisions to change that. He said that this Tuesday afternoon. It remains to be played at the Mercedes-Benz Superdome the Saturday following Thanksgiving, unless something happens to change that. It'll be played in New Orleans on that date. So that's a statement from Gramble this afternoon. So
we got the athletic director of Southern saying one thing. We got the president of Grambling saying the other thing. Do we have anything from the chancellor of Southern since this continues to come to give up? We got the organizers of the Bayou Classic in New Orleans saying another thing. So it sounds like who the hell knows? It's much like HBCU churning right now.
I was about to say that's the Bayou Classic churning. That's churning is the key word here. So.
Oh wow, really? Thanks for that updated news. Literally, as you said, breaking less than 2 hours ago. So I'm sure during the show we might get something from the chancellor of Southern University or their campus president. We'll see how that goes. With that, Mike, what do you have for?
Well, speaking of HBCU churning, on the heels of the FAMU, quote unquote, the decisions plural, BCU Board of Trustees held a meeting, and a statement has been issued. And I won't go into any degree of depth, but it cites basically after 40 years in the MEAC, we basically appreciate the relationship, but Bethune-Cookman has to do what is best for Bethune-Cookman, whether that is going to the SWAC or going to the Atlantic Sun Conference. Who knows? There are it's a toss-up. There are any number of conferences for which the conferences is considering, but after the Board of Trustees meeting and their decision to leave, it's a toss-up, and you kind of wonder, with the departure of now Hampton, with the departure of North Carolina A&T, with the departure of FAMU, with the departure now of Bethune soon to be, what's going to become of the MEAC? What does conference realignment? I'm sorry if I'm getting into the crux of it, but I'm just kind of excited about this stuff because it's almost turning into like an HBCU athletic soap opera.
Thank you, Mike. Charles, do you think Mike knows what he wants to talk about?
I think we're gonna talk a little conference tourney.
Okay, Mike. I was like, he does not get the idea of a tease, does he?
No, I wanted to bust right into it. I'm sorry. Exactly. I do have some other news, but I just wanted to bust right into that.
I see. You didn't say no fat big greasy. You like, let's go. that happens to be the Mike I know, so no problem about that. Let me get some love before I go back to Charles. Let me give some love to those that are tuning us in. Man, these are some of the best fans out there. They are regulars. They bring it hot and heavy. They keep us updated on all the small news up there, and we try to not only give them updated news, but provide a way to certainly discuss it in a way. So with that, you have Jimmy saying, "What's up? What's cracking, fellas?" Man, Jimmy then went to the West Coast on him. Reggie Howe says, "Good day, gentlemen." That's Reggie out of the CIAA. I got a chance to get some love as he called me in to do some batter box duty on his radio station up there in the Richmond area. Man, that was great conversation there. Chuck Hunt says the news gets interesting each day with the SWAC. Bethune-Cookman is interested. Wow, yeah, that seems to be what's going on. As we said, conference churning continues to be, and I guess we can go specifically with SWAC churning. We'll get into some news about that. I have some updates in terms of average attendance for Tennessee State, Bethune-Cookman. You know, to me, it's down to really two institutions at this time. If we had to break it down in terms of where the SWAC may go if they're trying to get to 12 institutions. So we'll save that for the second part of the show. So y'all stay tuned in. We're going to give you this great interview. In about a little under 10 minutes, we're going to bring in our guest to get some deeper dive in terms of the classic information, long time, I should say, promoter Fred Jones. We're going to get in here and give him that. Let me get some more update. Jimmy said conference realignment is in full effect. Reggie said, "Doc, you look like Billy Williams." Looking good, family. CIAA in the house. Willie Alex Hines says, "Good evening, gentlemen. Here, Alex Hines presents HBCU Sports is where the support is. HBCU News." Yes, sir. Thank you. Just think, 4 years ago, the SWAC was shaky ground. Leadership matters. Yeah, I can tell you here. The SWAC was literally dead almost 4 years ago. And looks like it is the place to be in so many different ways. Willie says, "What's up, CIAA?" He's hollering at Reggie over there. Jimmy says Gardner and 5 others people are still watching, so they're coming in. So y'all keep this information coming as we interview Fred Jones. If you have some questions that we can try to get him in, let us know. We'll get into that. Jimmy said leadership is very important. Seems like leadership is having some good issues right now. And so just for our listeners out there on KSOH 1230, we appreciate you following us. It seems like we've got things corrected, so you all are hearing us clear, and we'll continue to kind of bring that. Working with Ralph Cooper, he's been diligent to make things work. We've been messing up on our side. I'll blame it on myself as I'm supposed to be a leader. I tried to say we, but that's really all mine. But Ralph has found a way to get it done, so we appreciate you, Ralph. Give us a shout out there. You were right, Jimmy. Laugh out things happening pretty good. Christian Williams, that would be interesting. Bethune-Cookman comes to the SWAC. So Chris LeBlanc out there, big time Texas Southern University fan and alumni. Norwood Bird, BCU to the SWAC is not a good move. All right, so we got some people that are concerned about that. North Carolina A&T. The SWAC is becoming an HBCU SEC. You know me, I'm gonna say the SEC is the SWAC because we had it first. We did have it first, but you know it's a different disposition. Like I said, I refuse to be silent or silent, so it's gonna come out. Christian Williams said, especially for the bands, would be competitive, no doubt about that. And so out there. Jimmy says it's that range in Michael Washington. He can't help it. Just got to get it out. Charles, any other news that you got?
Yeah, let's jump right into it.
Michael Jones on here. Give him some news. Kevin Crawford. Sorry about that, Charles. What you got?
Now, shout out to my guy, Thomas Snacksley from Jackson State.
Oh,
so now Jackson State, the SWAC, and HBCU, they have an ESPY Award winner. Snacks, he is an ESPY Award winner. Shout out to my guy. Man. He's a good dude. Good dude.
Big time. I'm a fan of Big Snacks. I mean, you talking about finding a way to represent yourself, your family, your conference, your institution, and doing it in class, doing it well, having fun with a great story. He deserves that award in many ways. So I'm certainly going to be celebrating with him. That's pretty nice. Before I go to Mike with that, I like what you got in the background there, Charles. You're pretty nice. You got the helmet up there. You got the screen with the shield back there. Yeah, so you just keep giving us love. I like that, man.
I'm watching Charles watching me.
Yeah. So for all those on the radio, you got Mike watching himself. He's smiling. He can't smile. What you got news, man? What other news you got, man? We got the turns there. Speed fast, that man. Get back to Dr. Cavil on this, man. What's
out, man? I'm pretty, man. I'm sorry.
Oh, there you go. See, you told me as an alpha man you couldn't be talking about no pretty. You saying that for the camera.
I'm a pretty alpha. You see this in the background.
I tell you.
Yeah.
Hey, before I go to you, Mike.
Did you see Kevin Crawford's comment about Little Brother? Kevin Crawford said it looks like Little Brother wants to follow us to the SWAC.
Oh wow!
Shots fired.
You know, when you talk about that, you got Ralph G. Boom Holly up here giving us love. He cracking up. He say he listening to HEB. You got to get them as a sponsor since he giving them love on here. Prairie A&M University alumnus, get it in. And so Roger Holmes, Texas Southern University finest, Dr. Holmes, specialist in mathematics, department chair over there, getting it done. Wendy Jenkins Bishop, congratulations, Snacks D. Let's uplift Snacks the way Snacks is uplifting HBCU. No doubt about it. Go ahead, Mike. What you got?
All right. So news from the Hill, a.k.a. Prairie View A&M, the Prairie View A&M University. A letter that posted out by Dr. Ruth Simmons, Ruth the Truth, has announced the appointment of Dr. Donald Reed, Senior Associate Athletics Director at the University. Well, no, not the University of Buffalo, but from the University of Buffalo to the Athletics Department for the University of Prairie View A&M. So this appointment is effective July 15th, 2020. It comes following a national search led by Vice President of Student Affairs, Tim Sam, and kind of facilitated by a host of others, including Spellman Johnson Search firm, a couple of others that were part of that firm, and I know a lot of the alumni are on the line. A lot of speculation, a lot of conversation as to how this process came to be. So Dr. Reed has a number of tough choices on his plate as soon as he takes office. So it will be interesting to see how he tackles some of those challenges, i.e., the Labor Day Classic.
Labor Day Classic, yeah. Mike, I think you make a great point. It's going to be interesting. You know, talking about jumping out of the gate. He's got to answer that question: to play or not to play.
Right, exactly. And pretty soon.
Yeah, no doubt. So we'll see if we can get Fred back in. He was in, and see if we can bring him in there. With that, let's move on a little bit. Charles, do you have any other news you want to share?
Sure thing, and this comes from the SWAC office this afternoon for media release. The SWAC announces the 2019-2020 Academic Awards and Commissioners Honor Roll. The SWAC is proud to now recognize its 2019-20 Academic Awards recipients and SWAC Commissioners Honor Roll members. Jackson State, they claim the 2019-2020 SWAC Academic Success Award, finishing with a total of 30 points based on a point scale system used to determine the institutional winner, followed by UAPB with 23 points. Mississippi Valley State with 23 points as they round out the list, the top 3 finishers within the conference. The SWAC Academic Success Award is a monetary award decided based upon each member institution's collective ranking in categories of the highest 4-year academic progress rate average, highest senior year APR average, and highest graduate success rates.
Wow.
So kudos to all 3 of those teams.
Kudos. Big time kudos.
Big time kudos. With this, without further ado, we have Mr. Fred Jones Jr. Let's welcome him to Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. How you doing today, Fred?
Oh, good. How are you doing?
Oh, it's really good. We're really excited to bring in, you on to the show. Thanks to our connection with Rick Johnson, he was able to reach out to you and make this happen. So please say thank you to him, and thank you personally to yourself for joining us. Before we get into it, a lot of people know at least one thing what you do in terms of Southern Heritage Classic. But before we get into conversations on that and how that came to be, tell us a little bit about Fred Jones. Where are you from, if you would, where you went to school, a high school, college, and that nature, and just a little bit about yourself, if you would.
I'm a native Memphian. I live in Memphis now. For many years in my career, I lived in a suitcase.
Oh, wow.
I was on the road all the time. But I'm a graduate of the Booker T. Washington High School in Memphis, class of '66. I graduated from Memphis State University in 1971 and started my entertainment career actually 50 years ago, in 1970. I was part-time, and I went full-time in the business with Isaac Hayes, and the chef was out, and we made that pursuit and won the Academy Award in '72.
Wow.
I was a part of all that. So, been around a long time. Very few artists, at least in the early days, that you were involved in, from Count Basie to Sarah Vaughan to Prince, Rick James, Luther Vandross, Michael Jackson, the Jacksons,
that's great.
Cool J.
Wow.
I don't know. Just give it Parliament Funkadelic.
Yes.
The Isley Brothers, OJ. So I've been around the block for, as you can say, for all these many years that we've been involved in.
Man, that's such beautiful history, and thank you for sharing it. A beautiful story, and we get a chance to engage in a little bit. So, as you said, living out of a suitcase, and I'm sure parts of that are really exciting, part of that can kind of get tiring. What made you decide to get into the promotion side, and then ultimately, what led that to being a promoter outside of just music, musicians that you talk about, working with them, playing with them, and all that, moving from promoting them to moving to promoting an institution, or promoting, i.e. in this case, 2 institutions with this game, the Southern Heritage Classic?
Well, when I was in the 10th grade, my school played up in Tennessee at Byrd High School in Clarksville, and I met well, I should say it was a weekend at Florida A&M and Tennessee State played the game, and Bob Hayes was the superstar. So I got a chance to see the Marching 100 and the Aristocratic Bands as a 10th grader, and it's something I guess I always wanted to, be a part of that. And when I graduated from high school, I didn't have the wherewithal, and I tore up my knee next to the last football game. So my athletic career was over with, but it was something that's kind of was always in the back of my mind. When you watching that kind of pageantry and and when Bob Hayes was Bob Hayes, you know. Bob Hayes was down at the dorm, was down in the cafeteria, he was, and to see all that, and
wow.
get the hold at Tennessee State, and something that always stuck. So, as part of, kind of fast forward with this, I always wanted to show that I could do something in addition to entertainment. But as it turned out, the classics are all about entertainment.
That's right.
And that's the part that I brought to the table. Tennessee State and Jackson State had a rich rivalry, and I wanted to take that and show that too. One, that I could do it, and the other one that I could do it in Memphis, and would have celebrated 31 years this year. A lot of ups and downs, and peaks and valleys. But that was the basis for it. I wanted to show that I could do something else other than entertainment, but as I said, the classics, and I always compare the classics with the Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
You know who's going to play in the Super Bowl at halftime before you know who's going to play in the game. The halftime has been built up to be all of that and more. Where the HBCU, the halftime is that and more. I mean, you have an HBCU game, especially a big rivalry game without the bands being at the top form. So you had a lot to work with, and that's what I tried to do. But I had to try to convince them that it was the thing to do, to bring entertainment and bring that part of it and create all of these other things around it to make the game and the event happening and a weekend happening. And that's what we were able to do.
Wow, that's truly amazing, and great story in terms of the historical component of that. And as we like to say, you can't get this anywhere but here. So we thank you for sharing that. We talking about Bob Hayes, man. Bob Hayes. He got to see Bob Hayes.
Bob Hayes, Isaac Hayes. I watched that documentary the other night. One of the greatest intros ever was Isaac Hayes. So.
Man, it's amazing.
The other part of that I failed to mention, that when we went over to Burt High School, I was introduced to, I thought, the most beautiful woman in the world. I went to 10th grade and I met Wilma Rudolph.
What?
Yeah.
Well, he got one on both sides. FAMU, Tennessee State. Yeah, that
was before the wait.
He got an 8.
And I was in high school, and later on, as we started the classic, she along with Too Tall Jones got to be out 2 hours, and Doug Williams later got to be 3 of our supporters, advocates for how important this game was, and
wow, and
so to have their blessings was tremendous.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah,
like you said, in a lot of ways, you are ahead of the curve when you recognizing that sporting events, big sporting events, and what I like to call them now, mega HBCU classics, because you have HBCU classics and then you have mega classics. What you have with the Southern Heritage Classic, the State Fair Classic, with your comrade over there in Dallas, Al Walsh, as I know you all have talked many days about this, the State Fair Classic, the Bayou Classic, the Magic City Classic, those are what I call mega classics, not just classics. And you recognize the entertainment component of it that now has made, in many ways, the Super Bowl famous, because when you started this, all that stuff was growing. So with that, Mike, let me let you jump in here and ask a follow-up question.
Yeah, so with the decision, obviously there's an economic impact. How did that weigh into the decision? Because you're losing, 20 to 25 million estimated in revenue from such a loss in entertainment impact and how it grows businesses. So I want to know what the thought process was and what the consideration was, how we can kind of maybe recoup that over the long run from a business standpoint, or is there a bridge, maybe a way to bridge the gap in place, to suffice that loss of revenue with the cancellation of such a mega classic?
Well, this may sound strange when I say this.
Mm-hmm.
Money did not enter into the picture. Okay. It was the biggest consideration was that the health department here in Memphis and Shelby County this made this, and they have this all across the country: level 1, level 2, level 3. Some places have level 4, but we only have 3 here. And in each level, they have things that you can do and open up and that kind of thing. Well, in level 1, it was, I think, 10 groups of maybe 10 people. And we were in the stage 2 where you could get up to 50 people. Well, a week or so ago, they decided that they were going to stay in level 2 so that the biggest crowd that could assemble is 50 people. Mm-hmm. Every event at the Classic is over 50 people. We average over 40,000 at the game. It seems like we got 20,000 or 20,000 a more tailgate if we say 10, but it's unbelievable how many. We have roughly 20,000+ at the parade. We have a fashion show that's about 600. We have a concert we had with Patti LaBelle and Jeffrey Osborne. That would have been 2,300. So everything that we had was over the threshold that they had. So we were in a position where we could not do the Southern Heritage Classic. And the biggest thing that happened, they said that in the stadium, you can only do 6 feet apart.
Wow, yeah.
So at a 58,000 seat stadium, you would be less than 15,000 that you can have. But here's the other part, which was, and you guys can understand this, the band's members would have to be 6 feet apart.
Oh,
That's a challenge.
That's a big challenge. I can't even see the bands rocking like that with 6 feet apart.
Right. So, what you have to work with, and it's gotten a little bit worse now because they announced yesterday that they may go back to stage 1. Wow. So that means that less than 90 days from the Classic, we were in a position that we didn't know what was going to happen, and it could have been August before they decided. And we have people that come as far away as Chicago, California, New York, Florida, come into the Classic, and so you had to make a plan, and we couldn't do it. So that was the overriding reason why, from the health department perspective, the Classic, as you have read about and know about, would have been a skeleton. And I don't think that none of us would want to have that.
Understood.
No doubt about it.
Thank
Charles,
you
if you would, sorry about that, Mike. Charles, if you would, follow up with a question.
Yeah, sure thing. And I kind of have a two-part question, Mr. Jones, in terms of from your vantage point as a promoter of a mega classic, do you think football in its entirety will be played this upcoming fall?
Rick Johnson and I have spent a lot of times researching this. We took a different route where we started to look at what was going on across the country, what was the health professional, what they were saying, what the businesses were doing, and what happened. And it was very clear that the decision, even for the biggest, most profitable franchise in the world, the NFL, the decision hadn't been made. Even as of today, there's not a firm decision of what they're going to do. So to answer your question, I think it's going to be very difficult based on what Dr. Fauci has said. The spike is up now. Players from major universities like Clemson, they had 30 players. Alabama had 5. Ole Miss quarantined 10. Just to name a few, and obviously there are others. So it's going to be a challenge. And what Dr. Fauci said early on, and people weren't listening closely, that it's going to be very difficult with contact sports.
Yep.
Contain the virus. Mm-hmm. So with all that, close contact, breathing on each other, hitting each other, he was very clear, and I'm, as a person on the outside of this, I think that, it's going to be very difficult to pull it off. Sure. And I know in our case, we just couldn't, based on what the health department was saying.
Yep, sure thing. And the other question I wanted to ask was involving the business model. Dr. Cavil mentioned the Mega Classic, and you've been in this game for a long time, and you've been tremendously successful with the Southern Heritage Classic. But with television promoting HBCUs a little bit more, with television, I guess, making its treaties within the HBCU culture, I guess my question is, for the long-term viability of the Mega Classic, where do you see the Southern Heritage Classic, the Labor Day Classic, the State Fair Classic, the Mega Classics that are so ingrained within HBCU culture?
I think they'll always be there, because there's always a chance. I use our classic, for example. What people have done, they have the alumni from both schools, and they want to give their family and their friends the HBCU classic culture. So they invite all of their friends. It's a meeting place during the event. And I think that's going to stay there, and that's why that's kind of played into the decision making here. We being disruptive this year, but you don't want to do anything that's going to be disruptive in the future. So in other words, you don't want things to carry over, where people were disgruntled or whatever, that they couldn't, you're still trying to have it, and they couldn't have the experience that they're looking for. Sure. Because this has become I think that this keeps the HBCUs out in front of people, and that was the idea of classics in the first place. You go back to all those legendary black college coaches, HBCU college coaches. They wanted to be out in the forefront, but people could see them. You're in Grambling, you're in Longmont, Mississippi. You're in a kind of you're not lucky like Jackson State is in Jackson or Tennessee State is in Nashville. So the classics will be around for a while. It's just unfortunate, and this classic has had 2 unfortunate situations. I should say the latest was like 2 years ago. Mm-hmm. People wanted the first game that ever canceled a game because of the weather. I mean, we had to cancel the game because of lightning. We were all ready to go, and the lightning wouldn't let us. So we canceled the game at 18, and we went back in 2020, canceled it again because of the virus.
Wow, that's big.
Wow.
I have a question in regards to some of the ones that are following us on our Facebook feed. This is coming from Jimmy. He says, Mr. Jones, have you looked at promoting something like a basketball event, specifically like the MEAC SWAC Challenge? I mean, a MEAC SWAC basketball matchup from a basketball promoted? I know a lot of this has been classic football, and you've seen some basketball classics here and there. But what about something like that?
We tried it several years ago. I can't remember specifically the date.
Okay.
We had Southern, we had Alabama A&M going on college here.
Nice.
We tried it for a couple of years, but it was very difficult to get the scheduling because the University of Memphis is, you know, if you live in Memphis, you are a University of Memphis basketball fan.
Right.
I've been a University of Memphis basketball fan since I was in junior high school. So, but we couldn't get the schedule. We couldn't plan it out. We tried it for a couple of years, but we just couldn't pull it off. And, you know, it was called Southern Heritage Classic 2, but we just couldn't get it done.
And so let me ask you a question in regards of theory, your business acumen that you obviously accomplished so much over these years and you've seen so much. I'm sure that you've heard about FAMU leaving the MEAC in regards to joining the SWAC. Most of it was done from a financial standpoint. Obviously, some questions because that's the 11th, 12th member, whether there'll be another expansion. People looking at Bethune-Cookman out there or Tennessee State. From your perspective, what are your thoughts on that from a promoter's perspective to have 11 strong schools at this point in the SWAC? From the cultural perspective, whether it's Bethune-Cookman or even Tennessee State, if you want to engage in that, what are your thoughts in terms of what does that look like? Is that something that makes sense? Did you see it coming? Or do you think it's not necessarily a good thing?
At the end of the day, it's all about business when it comes down to it.
Yes, sir.
And in the day's world, and I think COVID-19 has everybody looking at their business and their business model a little differently. I'm in the entertainment business. There are no shows or entertainment shows anywhere in the world right now. It's shut down the world.
Yeah.
Okay. So on the other side of this, there's going to be a whole different dynamic. Now, getting back to, schools changing conferences and what have you, that's not unusual.
Right.
That's
real.
Yeah.
You know, it happens for various sons of reason. Like Howard moved from one conference to the other?
From the CIAA and one of the founding members to the MEAC, yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it's not unusual, and some of the other big schools, you know, they went to the Big Ten, they went to the ACC, you know, I think then Texas A&M going to the SEC.
Yes,
right, sir. So this is the first shuffling of the deck, as it were, with HBCU, but I think it's going to be some more. It's just, you can't afford to try and be in the game the way that you have been. It's like promoting shows or presenting events and what have you.
Yes, sir.
When we started the Classic in 1990, the internet was foreign. Social media was foreign. There wasn't a Zoom box, obviously. so all that, that's you guys doing what you doing today is because of the change that have come about in the media.
You're right.
So it's going to be the same thing with sports and conferences.
Okay.
And unfortunately, you know, some people are going to get left behind for the reasons that they can't keep up or can't compete.
Yeah.
Thank you for giving that insight, Charles. You want to get a question in here, and then Fred, if you would, you can have the last moment here as we start to close up on the interview. Go ahead, Charles.
Well, yeah, and you mentioned being in the entertainment industry, and I was curious, what do you think moving forward the entertainment industry will look like. The ability to go to concerts and be in contact with individuals, just like sports. What do you think the kind of the long-term psychological effects are going to be dealing with COVID-19?
Well, I think that's one of the things that gets left out of the conversation about COVID-19 and people attending events, whether they're any event, concerts or sports. Are people going to readily do that? I mean, the president has had a situation where the people that he thought was going to be there, for whatever reason it might be, there was a lot less. So that dynamic had to be, well, until we have a cure or a vaccine, sports, entertainment, big events. I give you another example quickly. The guy here is one of the big caterers. I mean, he does catering for weddings and all types of events. His business is down next to zero now because people don't want to gather in groups. So if they don't want to gather at a wedding or a repast or just a family outing, entertainment in a building, it's not going to happen.
Right. You're right.
And so you're not. Sometimes when you say this, people think you're being negative. But I'll give you one last example. Part of my research is that, and I wish you guys do the same thing. Excuse me. I'm asking people. I'm from Memphis. I'm 72 years old, and I've been doing shows for all these many years associated. Everybody here, they know Fred Jones, and they're my best friends. So I'm at the gas station or whatever, a grocery store, a restaurant or whatever, and we started talking about the Classic, and if you're going to do the Classic next year. I said, wait a minute, let me ask you a question. I said, I want you to answer this question for yourself, not for nobody else, just yourself. Will you and your family go to the Classic football game? The answer was emphatically no, and without hesitation.
Right.
I said, why? Because I don't feel safe.
Yeah.
Okay? So they were very candid. So sometimes when you're the promoter, some of the organizers, you think that you can advertise or promote. They all been cooped up. They want to go. But guess what? They say to me, we don't want to go. Reluctantly now. But they're not going to put their family in risk until they feel comfortable that everything is okay.
Sure.
Yep. Makes all the sense. Greg, just want to say thank you for your time joining us, the history lesson, the business components you shared with it, and just some of your life experiences. It's been wonderful interviewing. We certainly would like to bring you back on as hopefully things get back close to as normal. As you start planning for the Southern Heritage Classic the next year, or certainly prior to the event, please consider us to come in and give us some insight of how things are looking, and or just give us some insights and information that you want to share. Be it known, this could be one of the first places that you want to break any information. And if there's anything else that you want to share with us, please do.
Well, one of the things that played into all of this, along with the health department, is that the planning that goes into pulling off this type of event. You just don't wake up one day and you don't throw this together, and it doesn't work like that, and people not expecting it. But I'm just show you how you have to think ahead. We have a multi-year deal with both Tennessee State and Jackson State through 2024. Next year, in 2021, the football game is on September 11th which is also known as 9/11.
Right.
2021. It'll be the 20th anniversary of the events of 9/11.
Wow. We
were severely impacted by that. We had to postpone the game to Thanksgiving. So when you just kind of, sometimes you're talking through things, you say, well, next year the game will be on 9/11. And the few people that I mentioned it to this in the last couple of days just said, man, there's all kind of possibilities with that. And to think about as devastating as 9/11 was to the Classic, to the world, hopefully next year we won't be talking about COVID-19 and we can move forward with what the normal is, and we can have a big celebration on that milestone on our event and make it a part of what we're doing in the celebration of the Southern Heritage Classic. So I just thought I would mention that, and we just immediately started moving on to next year, and unfortunately there's a lot of things that have to happen this year. But it's, as far as we're concerned, we made the decision based on the science, based on the numbers, based on what we had available to us, and we were ready to move on. I mean, we haven't done very much with the idea, but it's there, and I'm sure that once we turn this corner, what is going to be the new normal, because again, I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, but we were already scheduled, like I said, for 2024, so it has happened to be next year's on 9/11.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. That's a great point. With that, again, Mr. Fred Jones Jr., thank you for joining us for the show on Dr. Phil's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington, Charles Bishop. Again, you're welcome to come back at any time. Thank you for your time and all the information you provided us and our followers.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jones.
Yeah, pleasure. And I just want to say to all of the thousands of people, I mean, we've had over 1 million people that have attended the Classic over the years. We've been able to generate for the schools combined over $12 million. Wow. But that doesn't happen unless people support and believe in what you're doing. So I want to take this opportunity to say thank you. We will be stronger as we go forward, as we get through this, and we all trying to figure it out, not only for this football game, but for this event, but we're trying to figure it out for our individual lives. How are we going to navigate all of this going forward? But I just want to make sure that people know that we didn't get a chance to talk about 30 years of Classic, 30 years of HBCUs, 30 years of Jackson State, Tennessee State. We had Grambling 1 year, we had Mississippi Valley 1 year. But you don't do that without support from the people. And the people have supported us, and I want to thank them for that.
No doubt.
No, thank you for making sure you got that in. That certainly is necessary. Again, we appreciate you. Appreciate you for all you do for our HBCU, specifically with the Southern Heritage Classic, Jackson State, and Tennessee State, and as you mentioned, even with Grambling, Mississippi Valley. So thanks again. Stay safe and stay strong. Stay healthy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
As we start to the second part of the show there, we'll continue as we promised some of our viewers. Hope you had a great time with our interview with Mr. Fred Jones Jr. In regards to what was going on there. I want to talk a little bit more about that in regards to Charles and Mike. We hear all this, and we started the show off with this HBCU conference churning, and we're hearing all these things that are coming out here. Obviously, Bethune-Cookman with the most clearest thing that we heard about with their statement, where they said that, one, they had a great time in the MEAC, and that they are certainly evaluating the situation, looking at the SWAC as well as the Atlantic Sun, maybe something like the Patriot League in regard to what's out there. So I wanted to kind of get some information out there for those that want to look, because obviously the question in my mind, there's two Division I institutions in the immediate region. Obviously, when this first came back, a lot of folks were talking about Tennessee State, and then some people were talking about Bethune-Cookman because of the natural rivalry between FAMU. What did that look like? And then there were other talks. Miles College, maybe. Would they be interested? Do they have a fit? Tuskegee with the football brand. Clark Atlanta being in Atlanta, the Atlanta market. And then you go with some other SIAC teams in regards to Fort Valley or Albany State with the size of the institution when they merged. And then some people even say, well, what about going back west and splitting it up and breaking it up geographically with Langston? But obviously, when you start talking about those schools, you talk about NAIA, NCAA Division II, you're talking about 4 years, so NAIA might be even longer. If you're trying to get to 12 and you're going to make the decision pretty quick, you kind of have to take those teams out. So you're really down to Bethune-Cookman and Tennessee State. So I wanted to kind of look at those institutions in terms of the average attendance. I think, if I'm mistaken, last year you had Tennessee State with 68,000 total attendance, Bethune-Cookman with 66, relatively close over 3 games. So you're talking about an average of 6,600 with one of the games, with Bethune-Cookman being canceled. Tennessee State 8,787. Obviously, you got to look at the difference with Bethune-Cookman being able to draw based on the MEAC rivalries and HBCUs. We've already indicated that Tennessee State's biggest games are with HBCUs, but they in classics. Obviously, we just had Fred Jones on talking about that mega classic in terms of that framework. And while there's a lot of brand indication with Tennessee State, and why brand-wise that may be obvious, but if you really take a deep dive in terms of the health of the athletic programs, which one has the best leadership? Lynn has been a stable. Tennessee State obviously has a new athletic director. And so while he may be strong, and every indication is he'll have an opportunity to get strong, and we're actually looking to see if we can pull him to bring him for an interview next Tuesday, just a little indication. So stay tuned for that in terms of next week. So let me know what your thoughts about it with Dr. Allen there of Tennessee State. But then you got the fact that, you know, other than women's track and field, the athletic program for Tennessee State has not been as successful. You go top to bottom, Bethune-Cookman, and you add in the fact that they have a great baseball program that really has had much success, and Tennessee State doesn't have a baseball program. Baseball is big in the SWAC. So there's a lot of things where if you take the deeper dive, where you start looking at Bethune-Cookman, you can say, hey, obviously some questions in regards to accreditation. I dug up and wanted to get into that question because I thought it was important in regards to understanding that. They did have their NK visit. The accreditation visit from SAC-COC, which was out there, and my understanding it went well. Financially, one of the components of that SAC-COC was financial. I dug into that and heard understanding that they made the threshold they needed to do financially, and then were able to get some things done from a board of trustees perspective with the state of Florida that's going to make them even more solid. And that's some things that I don't think people have out there that I was able to get my hands on. So as we do on our show, you know, we break things down in such a way that we want to make sure that our listeners and followers are able to get as much information as possible when they're trying to take these deep dives and look at it. So with that, what are your thoughts on that? Let me go to you, Charles, in terms of what are your thoughts in terms of taking that all in? Adding all those variables, what are your thoughts when you look at basically it being down to Tennessee State and Bethune-Cookman, in my opinion, in terms of that? And you got to add in, it looks like Bethune-Cookman is doing their research and they have an interest. But at this point, you're still working on and seeing if Tennessee State has any real interest in regards to what may be next for them.
Yeah, well, I'm going to take a look at it from the fan perspective, because I think some of the things that you kind of hear from fans throughout the SWAC is how can Bethune-Cookman kind of make this happen? And like you said, you took a deep dive, and one of the questions that is floating out there is, are they financially viable or things of that nature? One of the things that you mentioned, top to bottom, they are a strong athletic program, especially when you talk about their baseball program. And Tennessee State does not have a baseball program. So I guess when you kind of look at both schools, I think the initial thing, especially for a lot of fans, is Tennessee State, the brand name of Tennessee State, especially with the football program through the years and the track and field. But beyond that, you kind of ask, well, what is the better program, if you will, or just looking at the success of both programs, and as to whether it is actually a decent fit. If it comes down to both teams looking at a potential match with the SLAC.
Certainly, thank you for that. Breaking that non-answer. Mike,
I've learned.
Exactly. You got that A+ in the class. Now you ain't supposed to be using it on there, so we gonna start calling you Professor Bishop.
Hey, I wanted to use it because you had that case study with the Southern Heritage Classic in class, so I wanted to ask Fred Jones about a couple questions about that, because I still you get me on that.
Yeah, that's the only A- he got. He trying to get them points. He was like, I got to challenge Dr. Cavil. I'm not sure if I agree with his analysis of my grade. Professor, since we handing this out, and both of you do have your masters, Professor Washington, what are your thoughts on that?
So I'll start with Bethune, and look at their considerations. Culturally, does it make sense for them to move toward the SLAC? The immediate answer, if you're just an arbitrary fan, probably would be yes. But I think you touched on it, Dr. Cavil, and soon to be Professor Bishop touched on it. Their finances. They compete on all levels in the athletic realm, but in such a move, can their finances handle the rigor of not only football, but other sports, traveling to other SWAC schools, which drops as far as Texas, when if you look at the Atlantic Sun Division, you have schools like Jacksonville, New Jersey Institute of Technology, North Alabama, North Florida. That's a shorter distance. Now, culturally, it may not be as much of a match, but I think Bethune has to look for what the best fit is for Bethune. Does the cultural piece weigh more, or does the financing piece weigh more? You have to risk evaluate your options and look at what's the better fit. If you look at Tennessee State, they're in the OVC. What game do they have on that schedule where they can make $1 million? Tell me, because I know you're in the finances, but tell me what game that's Tennessee that they can make $500,000 football wise in the OVC.
That culture fit.
Yes, their culture fits. It is there's a good sale from a branding standpoint. You get branding. Now, I don't know. You gonna let me finish?
No,
let me finish.
No, we on top of the tone. I want to get this out. We on top of the clock at the time. I want to get this out. Both of y'all sound like professors. All this doggone theory, y'all leave that to Dr. Cavil. Leave the theory to me. I asked y'all to answer questions. I'm putting you. I want you to be an AD right now. The commissioner comes to the table. You already given him permission to talk to both Tennessee State and Bethune-Cookman. Let's get real now. There's two of them out there. I didn't gave y'all. You didn't gave to the president and the ADs. You say, all right, Charles. Yes, we want to get to 12. Break us down between what is the best between Bethune-Cookman and Tennessee State. Go talk to them and then come back. I done came back to you and I told you Tennessee State says they like what we're seeing, they like what we're doing, but they want some more information. They like, give me get a little more time.
Yeah.
Let me think about this. Bethune-Cookman says we're meeting with our board of trustees and this about to go down. Can we get in? Charles, yes or no? Do you say yes or no to Bethune-Cookman?
As you well know, anytime it's about to go down, you say yes. So
Mike Washington, Bethune-Cookman comes to the table and says, we want in. Are you going to 12 with Bethune-Cookman? It don't mean that you can't come back later and get Tennessee State. Yes or no on Bethune-Cookman?
I took 2 years of law school. And the call to question is, do I take Bethune or not? Based on their basis, I say no.
Wow. Galloway, got you on the spot, brother. We got you on the hot chair. Welcome to the show.
Galloway,
he's doing his show. We got a 1-1, so you gonna be the tiebreaker. The scenario is you are the AD. You gave the Commissioner Charles permission to go talk, and if one of these schools come out and say yes, you got to come back to the table and tell us which one we're going to take. So Tennessee State is hesitating. Bethune-Cookman has a meeting with his board. By the time you get this, the board that says, yes, we want in. Are you taking Bethune-Cookman? Yes or no?
No. Absolutely not, man. This is the SWAC, man. Look, Daytona Beach is not in the SWAC. Let's just go all the way one thing. Like, this is part of the reason why FAM is even leaving the MEAC is because of travel. Like, not the Daytona, but all that East Coast travel. So why would Texas Southern or Prairie View or Valley, any of those schools that are out there in the West, why in the hell would they have to drive to Daytona? Like, don't nobody want to go down there, man. You know, the best thing for BCU is probably the SIAC. That's probably going to be the best bet for them getting the
So remember,
they don't want to go to the SIAC. They won't. They looking up at
they gotta. Let me give you some facts before y'all debate this, because this is getting good. This is what we want. This is what I like. This kind of stuff. If you look at the budget, Bethune-Cookman has the second highest budget in the MEAC at $15 million. Right, $15 million. The only other school that is higher than them is Howard University at $16 million. And so in terms of budget wise, they could do it either way in regards to what that does. The other thing that we need to think about, and when you're talking about the split in terms of the travel, and when you're looking at it in SWAC wise, budget wise, the highest budget in the SWAC, or at least on paper, according to the last stats, is Alabama A&M, $13 million, Prairie View A&M, $13 million, Texas Southern, $12 million in terms of these budgets. Alabama State, $11 million. FAMU, $10 million operating budget. Again, Bethune-Cookman. So, but when you split up in travel, you only playing in divisions now. So you're not having to go to Bethune-Cookman at best maybe once every 2 or 4 years, if that makes sense.
I agree with that to a certain extent. But go ahead, I'll let you finish.
No, I won't put that on the table. Now, let's go.
Oh, here's the thing about that. Yeah. If Bethune need to just develop their own identity. They need to start trying to tell the Florida A&M. See, that's the problem right there. They always will be the little brother. I don't care what the record is over the last 10 years. They always go little brother. Yeah. And they follow FAM to the SWAC. It's the same exact thing. We want to go with you, FAM. We want to go with you. So
we have what we call the corporate relative budgetary comparison. And what that says is $15 million in one market may not be $15 million in another market. $15 million in the MEAC.
That is true.
Once you go to the SWAC, may not stretch that far. So maybe TSU or Southern only needs $13 million if they're taking buses away. Now you've stretched Bethune. They're on the Atlantic coast. They don't identify with them. They're going to stretch their budget. It's not a good match.
But Mike, you talked about the cultural piece, and we've talked about this a lot, especially with Tennessee State, especially their fans. They only get excited when they're playing HBCU teams. Bethune-Cookman, I mean, if they're actually looking to make a move, and the options are SWAC or the Atlantic Sun, I mean, and they're knocking at the door, why would you still keep the door closed?
Why would I keep the door to Bethune?
Yeah,
closed.
Yeah, because that means I'm gonna let you answer this, but I want to make sure this is in there, because that means that you're staying with 11 teams in the SWAC now. Because Tennessee State has not come to the table.
Right.
So you're staying at 11 teams. So you still got to deal with your scheduling in terms of that component. And now you're trying to schedule with uneven divisions in terms of splitting your conference. So that's an issue. So if you split and bring Bethune-Cookman in with 12, scheduling wise, it becomes easier to reduce your travel than trying to do it 11.
Yeah, theoretically it would become easier, but why not close the door? Who says Tennessee is a done deal? That's what we're hearing. Number two, why would we not consider a Miles?
So now you're not. Now you're taking over my case study. I just told you. No, in this scenario,
this is becoming the Big Mike case study, man. I'm sorry. Your question was, do I say no to Bethune? I say yes. And I understand Tennessee State is not a lock, but there are other. SWAC has become the SEC, or in your words, it has become comparable to the SEC. However you want to put it, Doc. It's your show. You can phrase it how you want. They have become the HBCU
get this clear because you
mega conference.
You just took over the class.
So you are going to have suitors coming to you. The Miles, Tennessee State is not off the table. Then you're going to have others coming to the table.
No, I'm saying they're off the table right now in this year. The decision has to be made by July 1st. That's what I'm saying. I'm trying to make sure we get all the facts on the table so when you're making a decision, this is not something that we just make blindly. You have until the 1st. And if I'm not mistaken on Tennessee State, their decision timeline was actually based on their last meeting 2 weeks ago. So that's $500,000, and that's 2 years from that date. So that means you got to cover that cost, and it ships off to $750,000. Is less than 2 years. So you might get them to revisit that before the date next year to get it done. But this date, in terms of that ship, has flew. So I'm just trying to make sure that we understand the real things that are going on, because that's what the administrators are looking at when they're going to make this decision. All this hypothetical is nice when we're on the board, but we're giving the information a fact. So I'm getting you to play in those roles. So what that, Rob, does that change any thoughts of what you decision?
No. Here's the thing,
I like that. No.
God, I'm just saying, God bless me.
Mike says no.
God bless all those teams over there, right? But the thing about it is, man, we cannot accept everybody into the SWAC. I mean, Charles is in some of the groups that I'm in, and he's seen that they like Lincoln University. Like Lincoln University. Yeah. What's wrong with y'all? Like, they just want anybody to get in the SWAC now, just because SWAC is the it spot, and it's just like there's no way. I'm reading this article. I'm reading this article today, and the Bethune-Cookman thing. It was from, I forgot the newspaper it was from, but as I'm reading it, I'm like, this sounds like a bunch of crap. And then I get to the end. The author of the article clearly doesn't really follow HBCUs, because he was saying that North Carolina A&T and Hampton will be leaving the MEAC in 2021. And I was like, well, dang, Hampton already gone, bro. Like, so now I press your article. So, I got to go on what I know. And what I know is that,
I like that.
What I know is Miles, Albany State, Tennessee State. Like, if you go add somebody, it should just be one of those three teams right there, because they're in the footprint. And people on Facebook talking about the hateful Bethune-Cookman is high tonight. No, it's not. We're just speaking. This is logically speaking. Like, you all are in Daytona. That is not Southwest. That is not Southwest.
Yeah.
You're on the beach, on a whole nother beach. The SWAC, Mexico. Y'all on a whole nother side. Like, come on, man. It sounds good. It sounds real, real good until you blow the whole budget trying to travel. Like, come on, man.
You notice Callaway snuck in Albany State there. Charles, what are your thoughts?
Yeah.
You know what? I'm all for Bethune-Cookman. Bring that baseball team on over. I want to see these matchups against Alabama State. I want to see Jackson State. I want to see them take on Southern every now and then. I'm all for Bethune-Cookman. Let's go Wildcat.
Oh, man.
Go Wildcat.
Come on, man. We need an HBCU version of come on, man.
Let's go.
Wildcat.
That's in the SWAC, because Fam already is playing it now. We don't need that. band's playing that song. We good, man.
Yeah.
Let the Florida Classic be a MEAC SWAC thing, right?
Exactly.
Like,
well, we're gonna have to get in a little conversation on that, because if everything we talking about, we can't have somebody staying in the MEAC. Now they talking about North Carolina Central and Norfolk State having meetings, backdoor meetings with Big South. You got Delaware State. They put on their evaluation, so they go in NAC. They got Howard talking about the Ivy League or the Patriot League. They got them going. So
if we're not careful, the Big South gonna be the next HBCU conference in a minute. And just based on what he's tossing going, they're starting to talk to some folks. I'm just saying.
But they can keep them schools that they get, and they can have them, because guess what? North Carolina A&T not go do it like within the next year. They won't be what they were in the MEAC. You know, they gonna have to play a whole lot better football. I mean, not to say that the MEAC don't have good football, but hell, we could beat Delaware State. So I'm just saying, like,
and you really meant we.
Yeah.
I just want to know who's gonna line up as quarterbacks.
we
put Callaway back there.
Callaway don't take them hits.
I'm a runner. So
you gonna take some licks, brother.
So, Rob, who you got on the show tonight? What you got going on?
Hey man, you know, I'm gonna talk about this whole. I heard y'all talking about the Bayou Classic. They were saying that the Bayou was still being held in New Orleans. Like, man, we got to get over that. So I'm gonna touch on that for a brief moment. But I got a legend joining the show tonight, man. Rudy Hubbard, the only coach to win the national championship, a real national championship, the NCAA national championship. Go check in with me tonight, man. So you know, I'm just, you know, I'm so elated to have him on the show, so I'm going to pretty much let the show belong to him tonight.
I feel you on that one. I'll be tuning in for that. That's going to be magical. We got our producer hidden in off the camera in the back, Roy Evans. He's doing his strike. Strike again. Yeah, he's smiling when you put that up there. He loving that. So, yeah, that's going to be nice, man. How you get that done, man? You sneaking them in on me, man.
It's magic, man. It's magic. Look, I will not lie to you. I called down to FAMU, right, trying to get a contact on him. Man, they gave me 6 bad numbers on him before I ever got the right number on him. So, catch up with, you know what I'm saying? So, but we got him. We got him tonight. So, everybody make sure to tune into that coming up in the next 2 minutes.
Oh, that's awesome.
Man, that's awesome. That's pretty good.
And
so
we're about to surprise for y'all. Dr. Cavil checks his email. I got a surprise for y'all, so y'all check that out when we get done tonight.
We got some magic.
I did a little.
So also, I got a text from Commissioner. Actually, he called me. Dr. Charles McCullen called me as we was doing the show. He forgot we were doing the show, and then he was trying to sneak in. Then he was needing a number, so I told him he was on the show. And I said, by the way, since you disturbing the show for interruption purposes, can we have you on next Tuesday? He said, sure will. So we'll hear straight from the Magic Man next week.
Got the backbone going on.
Yeah,
right.
We got that locked in. So we'll be able to ask him personally, because
y'all know he got
obviously. He got a poker face. But I surmise by the end, July 1st is that Wednesday. So if any indication, I think we're going to know a lot probably by the end of this week. Certainly by the first of next week.
We'll know something.
And so I took advantage of it and lock it in just in case things go one way or the other. We would be the first to the Magic show. So I locked him in and said, hey, we want to have the first interview talking about moving forward. But we got some other things to talk about if that decision is not made by then, but something is telling me, and that's why I was giving y'all a little hint indication. Be prepared. I'm just trying to say, understand the magic.
Dropping some crumbs. I see you.
They don't call me. They don't call me Dr. Cavil for nothing. So let's roll it out, if you would, Roy. Go ahead and play the music as we start to do the countdown, and we're gonna bring it to a close as we do. This is Dr. Cavil inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington, Charles Bishop, with our special guest jumping in here, Rob Calloway. Tune in to him now. Go ahead and jump over as we transition to Spreaker. Check him out on Spreaker, and we're going to put a link at the end of this show so you'll be able to just hit on the link and you'll be able to go straight to his show as you're getting your HBCU love to the day. You get 2 straight hours, so jump it in there. I am Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, the Dean, the College of HBCU Sports, with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop, as we come to you close every Tuesday right here in terms of our lecture hall. That nickname was given to me by Rob Calloway of HBCU Report, coming up next.
Oh, man.
Again, I want you to thank you for listening to Dr. Ville's HBCU Sports Lab radio show with Mike Washington, as he's giving me a hard time, and Charles Bishop. All those out there, listen to us. We had over 100 engagements during the show, so appreciate the love. Keep it going. Like I said, tune in next week. We'll have Dr. Mickey Allen of Tennessee State, the athletic director. We'll have Dr. Charles McCullen, the commissioner of the SWAC. So we have a big packed show next weekend. Tune in. We're going to give you some more information as things start to show up. Follow me, Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Dream big and continue to move forward. We will talk with you soon. Course lecture dismissed.
Mike and Charles, they know what they be talking about. They compress the analytic data with the hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they want a lot, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson. And you gon' learn today, how your team they play, how they play, boy. You gon' learn today, how your team they play, how they play, yeah. We represent that swag, that MEAC, and let me say, what's up to Tennessee State? You tune into the HBCU Sports Lab with Dr. Bill, Mike and Charles, and I'm King Time.